Welcome to Cocktails and Capital, the working on your business podcast that feels more like grabbing a drink with your best friend. I'm your host, Sarah Tatum, that best friend. I'm the owner of Tatum Accounting, where we invite our clients to take a vacation from their bookkeeping. In this podcast, I'm going to give it to you straight. Talking points and vague tips, we don't do that here. There's a bunch of noise out there in the entrepreneur community, especially when it relates to finances. And when you're trying to run your business, you just don't have time for that. And I know that you would rather be doing literally anything other than recording expenses and logging into your accounting software. So I'm bringing you practical advice without any of the fluff, just like your best friend would. So turn the volume up, grab your gin and tonic, and let's dive into this week's theme. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cocktails and Capital, another episode. This is episode 45. Today we have the wonderful Amy from Crunch on Snacks. Amy, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. So if you don't know, and we'll obviously, link in show notes to social media and everything, but Amy runs a really, really cool, like freeze-dried snack business, and you have sweets and fruits and vegetables and things that like you'd never expect. I remember one time I got a bag of corn from you as like a freebie, and I was so amazed and also like confused because I didn't know what to do with the corn, but you were like you had the idea of what to do with the corn and tomatoes and green beans, and those green beans I put in so many like soups and everything, and it's just like frozen vegetables but just pantry stable. Like it was the most like mind-blowing concept to me at the time. And I think it was a really innovative business idea. And I don't think I'd ever seen anything like that until I met you. So I thought that was really cool. But what inspired you to do this, to do Crunch
Yeah.
On?
The funny thing is, freeze dried products, like you're right. I make freeze dried candies, fruits. We
Mhm.
do vegetables, we do ice creams and whatnot. And nothing about it is really new. It's been
Yeah.
around for ages. And that's the fun part is not many people know that. So unless they're big on hiking and camping, and they'll see these at like, those types of stores, those retail stores where they do sell meals, like full on meals where all you have to do is add water. They're
Mhm.
lightweight, right? So they could carry it with them when they go hiking and camping and whatnot. All they got to do is add hot water, or a lot of these pouches already have built in heaters of some sort to warm
Mhm.
up the food, and they can have a full on meal without having to cook. So for us, we don't do the meals, we just do snacks. But even for the snacks, they've been around for ages. The astronaut ice cream, I remember being able to get when I was younger. I mean, they still have it available, but I remember it from the Air and Space Science Museum and just
Oh,
getting freeze dried ice cream there. If you're really in the olden days, like the Army, the MREs,
yeah.
that those are all freeze dried products. And
I
I
did
think,
not know that.
yeah, I think what made it such a fad now and why it's different now than what it used to be is because of the candies. I think,
Mm.
once you get that on social media, the younger people are just, making it viral, and you're bringing back this like freeze dried product that other people have already been using for ages, but it's just a new spin and a new take. It's just getting in front of the right audience.
Yeah.
So you asked me how I guess this question, like how I got inspired to
Yes.
start this or how I started it. So we were talking about earlier how this is another one of my, I guess a project or business that started during COVID. And as a I was working for a large defense contracting company for a
Okay.
four-star military command. So I've always had my day job, but the thing is, for me to do a side hustle is nothing new. I've always had a side hustle. So anything you could possibly think of that, direct sales, whatnot, and
Mhm.
I've kind of dabbled in it. Like I grew up in a
Yeah.
family of entrepreneurs. They owned everything from restaurants to, Asian grocery stores to even a dance studio and all that stuff. So I just kind of have that itch to be my own boss, but I always had my day job.
Mm.
So during COVID, when we were working remote, so we weren't allowed to go into the office for a long period of time. And then working from home, it just you're able to be more efficient. You don't have
Yes.
to spend the time talking to your coworkers. So you actually, if you're truly working, you actually get a lot done. So, which meant that I had some free time looking at TikTok videos or looking online and came across these freeze-dried candies. So freeze-dried Skittles. That's
Mm.
kind of where I first saw it was online and I wanted to try it. Couldn't find anyone in my area that sold it. So started doing more and more research because I'm very much a research person and decided that this could possibly be my next thing. So
That's
that's
really
kind of how
cool.
it started in 2020 was when I started researching and ordered my first machine the end
Mm.
of, um, yeah, it was October 2020 that I ordered my first machine.
And you have grown so much in
So
these
fast.
3.25 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're into pretty much, I started my first market. It was end of March, April 2021.
Mm.
So, I mean, we're about to enter into what, like, we're our third year now of market. So, yeah, definitely. It grew really, really fast. I'm myself am still kind of shocked. I mean, of course, this is stuff that you always hope for when you
Of
start a
course.
business. And then when you do your analysis or when you try to figure out how you can make it into a business, this is what you hope for. But even
Right.
this was a little bit of a surprise for me.
No, it has done incredibly well, and you have a storefront too,
We do have a
which I think
storefront.
is a
Yep.
little bit unique to, most of the people that we know from our farmers market community. Most of, them just have the farmers market and then their online sales, but you have all 3.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the people that do kind of want to, because we fall very closely to baking in a sense. So a lot of
Mhm.
bakers, they're able to sell their wares, their products, even just working in an uninspected kitchen. Right. So it's called under Virginia cottage laws. They're
Yep.
able to make lots and lots of products. You can do pickles, you can do baked goods and whatnot. And there's
Mhm.
definitely restrictions and, to being under cottage laws, like where you can sell, what you can sell and whatnot. And that's actually a large reason why I knew going into this business that I did not want to have any restrictions. Like I am the type of
Right.
person that doesn't like being told what I can and can't
What to
do.
do.
So I'm
I'm
gonna
shocked and appalled.
if there's a way that I can, do it and I have the capacity and I'm able to do it, then yeah, I definitely want to go the
Yeah.
right route.
Right.
So that's kind of why we went into the storefront. I considered getting my own home inspected because you can do that. You can make your home a
Right.
kitchen, a commercial kitchen, but it just was too much renovation and to
Mhm.
try to there's very strict rules with that and keeping it separate. And that was a lot. So I
Yeah.
ended up looking for space outside of my house.
How soon after you had started this in October of 2020 did you go into your retail space? What was the process kind of like of finding
It
your
was a year.
your
It was
store?
exactly a year because I got my space in October 20. Well, no, that's not. I became VDAC certified in October 2021. So
Mm.
I ordered my first machine in October 2020, received my first machine February of 2021. There was a long lead
Wow.
time in getting the machine. Yeah, just because they were
Yeah.
so packed up because during that time, COVID, you have to remember we were having difficulty in finding food and groceries
Everything.
and meats and everything in the grocery store. So it brought back the homesteaders, like people were like, hey, we need to
Mhm.
start planning for the future. Like the end is
Yeah.
near type of thing for some people.
Yes.
And well, the freeze drying, you've always had canning, you've always had dehydrating, but the freeze dried community, like those freeze dryers became a hot commodity. So
Yeah.
people started buying those because they wanted to be able to have food for the future because they thought that this was it. It was, and with freeze dried stuff, you're able to keep it for 25 years if you properly package it. So
Wow.
that's definitely the longest compared to canning and
Yeah.
dehydrating. And also like it just the freshness of it, the nutrients, the value of it is just so much better.
That's crazy. I did not know that. So educated today.
It's just fun.
Well, then,
That's one of the things I love about is educating people.
yeah,
So
that's honestly one of like I think the best parts of owning a business. Like we've talked to Carrie with Peanut City, we've talked to Aaron with Strong Not Sorry, and Wendy with Bake Deliveries, and every single person that we've talked to is all about educating their client base. And Carrie educates on, soy wax and its benefits. And then you are
Yes.
educating on freeze drying, and Wendy's educating on sourdough. So like we all have our little pockets of people that we can educate and make, more people can make more effective decisions about what they're purchasing, which I
Absolutely.
think in this day and age too, with everything being so expensive, is so important and makes it
Yes.
easier to support local if you have
Mhm.
this kind of educational connection to the people who are, selling you things instead of Walmart or Amazon. Please don't sue us.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
I highly agree with that. And even
yeah.
for me, like I sell, I mean, I will admit I sell, the not so great stuff either, right? I'm still freeze drying candy. The candy is still candy. But
Yeah, but
even
the
with
candy
that,
is
yeah, it's almost like pick your poison. You're gonna eat it anyway, so you might as well, But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that, like, even when I got into this and I'm freeze drying candy, I'm learning a lot myself. Like, I
Mhm.
have never really, like, I know more about the ingredients in candy now than I've
Yeah.
ever, just because I'm working with it. And then you also see like how much huge manufacturers, these brands, they change their ingredients every once in a while. Like during COVID, if
Mhm.
they couldn't find something, they used something else. And I was able to pick up on their change, not even just by reading the ingredients, but based on how they freeze dried. So
That's
it's so
crazy.
interesting, yeah, to see what gets used and you get familiar with these terms, these words that you can't pronounce on these labels, and you get
Yeah.
familiar with what they do and what you're eating. So even though I sell the candies, I still am aware of what's in them.
Well, and I think that's part of the benefit of being the person who is, reviewing what product you're going to try to freeze dry, or like being the
Mhm.
person who determines what gets tested and what gets sold is again, like it's that connection of point A to point B. There is no middleman trying to do the freeze drying and make the decisions. It's literally if I wouldn't eat this and I'm
Right.
not comfortable with this, I'm not going to freeze dry it. I'm not going to sell it to you. And
Right.
that I think is like number 1 top priority for people to figure out what they're putting into their body and what they're
Yes.
eating, and if they have people that they trust, I think that's just an easy decision to make, but anyway, sidebar. So
Local businesses, small businesses, you have a little
Mhm,
bit of that control because we do everything in more of a small batch form so that
mhm,
we have that control. Whereas, when they're manufacturing it in large factories, there's no way to track everything that goes into it, into those machines. And if something were to go
right.
wrong, like they're gonna miss it. So
Right. Yeah, quality control can only control so
yes.
much. Yeah. So, pivoting a little bit
Yeah.
into the accounting side of things. I talked to Wendy about this last episode, and you 2 are both in a unique situation where we're actually not doing your books, but I think you've still handled everything, incredibly well from what I can see on the outside, and everything is successful and going because you are constantly hiring, new people, but you also have people that stay with you for a long time. You have a retail space, you have new products all the time, your pricing's fair. Like there's kind of things markers that we can see as accountants on the external side that can kind of like, benchmark, oh, these people seem to be doing well compared to other people, right? So my curiosity is what role does bookkeeping play in your day-to-day business process and also in your decision making process, and do you use your financial statements often? Do you review them often? Hit me with your process.
So I will start by saying the admin work and the paperwork and the financials, the bookkeeping, all that stuff. I know for myself that is my weakest. So that is not a strength of mine. So as a business owner
Mhm.
and as a leader of my business, I'm aware of that, which is why I delegate that to
Yes,
someone that is able to take care
I
of
love
it
that.
for me. And it was funny when I first met my accountant. I told her the only thing that's required is that you keep me out of jail. So
Yeah,
make sure that you have my paperwork and my finances, based upon the rules and the requirements, and keep me
yeah.
out of jail, but yet, help me make money and I will be totally on board. So by delegating that part of it, I definitely use, obviously it's very important, right? The
Mhm,
finances are important. I mean, even just tracking, my profits, my expenses and all that stuff. Like it all plays a part, but I will gladly say that because she's able to do that for me, all I have to do for her is pretty much set it up for her. So I just
mhm,
have to make it easily accessible. I have to
mhm,
try to make it as easy as possible for me as a business owner and even for my accountant. So
mhm,
that means, for my business when I started, and some of this was like a learning curve, and some I knew already just because I've always dabbled in the side hustle. But
mhm.
having a separate account. So I have my own business account. So
Yes.
everything is I keep my personal and business separated, even having a single or separate credit card that I use for my
Mhm,
business expenses and whatnot. So that I only use for my business. I don't mix my personal so that everything makes it easier by doing so. And then if I use a platform such as Square or
mhm.
Venmo or whatnot, then everything at the end of the year is so easy for her because she just needs to pull report from these single
Yep.
separated things. And then she's able
Yes.
to have all the information.
That
So
is rule number 1, separate
yeah.
business versus personal. I think I've talked about that, like, at least 100 times here, and it's so validating to hear other people say that on here because it's like I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but it is so important, and it's important
It
for these
is,
reasons right here. Like, if right now we're in tax season and we
right.
people do have mixing of Venmos or mixing of squares or
Yep.
things like that, and it creates so much headache and so much mess, not just for the tax preparer, but for you, because in all honesty, I'm gonna make you fix it. So
Right, exactly. I know. Thankfully, she categorizes everything for me and has gotten to the
yeah,
point where she's not asking me a lot of questions. She's got it figured
yeah,
out. It's pretty
yeah,
self-explanatory. But yeah, I can
yeah,
imagine for someone that's mixed, mixing stuff, like trying to figure out, oh, what category is this? Where does it go? That
mhm,
is a mess. But I truly believe that it all starts with your original why. So I do
mm,
believe that there are some business owners that, they may not be wanting to do this as a full-on business. Maybe it's a side hustle where they just want to make just enough money to pay a bill or to pay
mhm,
the mortgage or, to
yeah,
have some extra income so that they can buy clothes or shoes or whatever it is, right? So every business is different and I can see
mhm,
why a smaller business may have things mixed up because they're not
yeah.
doing as much with it.
Yeah, I think also, there's a lot of miseducation sometimes. There's a
Mhm.
lot of TikTok videos about what you can and can't do and should and shouldn't do, and a lot of them are not right. And so I think again, from an educational standpoint and in a connection, that's why we've put so much effort into like this podcast and in interviewing people and making sure that there's more than one voice who can tell you to not mix your personal and your business.
Right.
And whether it's an audio form, visual form, like whatever. But I think that's a very important concept for people to realize whether you are doing it to save up for a vacation or not. It should be separated as much as possible. And by as much as possible, I mean 100%. But
It does make it a lot easier, yes.
yes, it
If
does.
you're about
Eh,
making your life easier, then yes, it is a necessity.
yes, yes. Now, do you, not to get too much into her process or anything, but do you review your financial statements often with
Um,
her or by yourself so that you know what's
well,
happening or
yeah, so, I mean, she does send me quarterly statements. I mean,
Mhm,
after she does do my payroll, so
mhm.
I have access to all the files that she sends me. Do I really look at them? I would be lying if I said I totally do and study them and know, like, the back of my hand, which I should probably as a small business owner. I should know my numbers, but in that aspect, I utilize my time in a lot of other
Yeah,
aspects of my business, right?
yeah.
So, yes, like, I mean, she does provide me all the reports, and we do look I mean, she's done my taxes this season or
Mm,
this year already, so, I mean, like, she's recently just sent all those to me.
mm,
So, I mean, she's definitely on the ball, like, my main thing is, like I said, keep me out of jail and then make sure my
right.
people get paid on a timely basis, just because that's really important to my staff, so I wanna make sure that that is taken care of for them. Yeah, but other than that, I mean, like, like, with my business, like my time is focused on the strategic. I do a lot with operations, but even that I'm learning to delegate, right? So as we get bigger and bigger, we're starting to see areas that we need to grow, and like looking at retail space that's big enough for our
Mhm.
capacity, or making sure we have enough machines to make what we need to be able to sell to hit our numbers. So things like that is kind of what I focus on. And so not only just the operations, but making sure I have the people set up to do the operations so then I can think about the next step.
Do you use your reporting that she gives you in any way to make those operational decisions, like finding
Yeah,
another big retail space to make sure or to
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so it's all it's all kind of
it's all related.
linked together, right? Because
Mhm,
even, when we're setting it up for her to do her numbers, to do the reports, I mean, like these are the basis that we're building our business on, right?
right.
So
Yep.
it's all, how much are we bringing in? Like what sales are we doing? How much does
Mhm,
it cost, for a product? Factor in the cost of employees, you factor in the
mhm,
taxes, you factor in, the rent and all that stuff. So every
mhm.
decision is on those reports, and what she provides me does determine what I can do with my business. So for us right now, we're actually, this is on the download right now, but I guess this is going to come out a little later, right? We're actually moving into a larger space. So we're going to move our
Oh,
shop this year.
very
And that
exciting.
was yeah, and that was based on, whether we have the capacity to, right? Can we afford the new
Mhm.
rent? Can we afford, getting more machines? Can we afford more employees? Because this would mean that I have to extend our shop hours or things like that. So we
Right,
have to do
right,
all the sort of analysis that we do to determine if this is a good choice, good decision.
right. I love the growth. I'm so happy for
Yeah.
you. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. No, that is it's all very interconnected, and I think if there's any point to this episode is that this is all interconnected. Like your pricing is connected to it's not just an arbitrary number. Like we have to look at our
No.
statements. We have to look at the revenue that's coming in and what products are doing
Right.
well, what products aren't doing well. And all of that is interconnected into these big business decisions like where are you going to go operationally? Do you need to hire operations managers? Do you need to hire more employees to run the store? Like these are the big decisions that those financial statements really are pivotal for making these calls. So,
Absolutely.
good job. Good
Yeah,
advice today.
thanks.
I always like to close these out by asking if there was one piece of advice that you could give to someone who is about to start a business or has just recently started a business. What would you tell them, whether it's, financial wise or life advice wise? What kind of advice would you give?
Oh man, let's see. I think okay, well, I think I would start with, know what your passions are and know what your why is, right? So
Mhm.
when I share about my business, my passion isn't really the product, right? Although the
Mhm.
product is really cool. The freeze dry candy is a fad. It works with my background just because my family was in the food business. So it fits that
Mhm.
itch of being an entrepreneur and also being in the food industry at the same time for me. So, my passion isn't freeze dried candy or freeze dried fruit.
Right.
It's really
Right.
just, I love the interaction. I love the sales. I love watching people
Mhm.
try new things. So, this was a big factor for me in wanting to do this because this was something new for this area. Even though it's been around
Right.
forever, this is something new that I could introduce people to. And that was what was drawing me to the business. And, seeing and calculating the numbers of how I could make it into a business.
Mhm.
So that's why for me personally, I have the hardest time letting go of markets because idea of markets is you want to, test out your product and get yourself in a place where you can generate enough income elsewhere, right? Either through
Right.
wholesale or retail and whatnot, since we do have a storefront to stop doing markets. And I will never stop doing markets because I love the interaction and that's my why.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's the direct, person to person. And
Yeah.
then, so the thing is like for other people, I would say that's the most important thing is figure out why you're doing it or why you want to do it. And then
Right.
pretty much don't compare yourself to other people. I think that's the hardest part. You
Gosh,
know,
yes.
set your own pace and then figure out what works for you because it's different for everyone. For me,
Absolutely.
it works for me because I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. And so I am able to dedicate more time to my business and not have a life, and it's okay. Whereas it would not be where whereas it would not be okay for someone else that's in a different situation. So never compare
Right.
yourself, and you just have to know what you are capable of and what your why is and just kinda move at your own pace.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. It's so incredibly true that you have to figure out what your end goal is. It does not necessarily have to be the product. Like in full transparency, I do not love accounting every day, but you know what I do really enjoy is doing this. And I
Yes.
enjoy writing the blogs, writing the guides, building courses, hint hint, and doing these things that we can connect on accounting and educate more people on accounting and help not be so scary. And it's, it's the same with the farmers markets and connecting with people and that
Yes.
interaction. And I think especially being COVID businesses, that interaction was so important, especially at that time. We just did not have any with most people. I
Yeah.
think the why you don't have to your why does not have to be because you want to get this product or this service out in front of people. Your why can be literally anything. I think that's
Right.
beautiful advice. You did good.
Exactly.
Thank you. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on today. It was an absolute joy.
Thanks.
And I wish you all the best with your move and
Thank you
with your
so much.
growth
I
this
appreciate
year.
it. I know I
Of
can't
course.
wait to announce it. I can't wait to see what comes out of it. And when you talking about, things, working with the reports and whatnot, learning what I've learned a lot. I've always kind of been data driven, especially with my previous job. But
Mm,
you talk about starting with data, right? Like your
mhm.
numbers, but how to learn how to read information, how to find trends, and then so that you can
Yes.
make decisions based off of what starts off as just data. And I think that's
Yes.
where the accounting is really important too, so that you see these reports, but it's not just the numbers, right? It's not just the profits and the expenses or whatnot. It's just you're finding trends in your year
Mhm.
to year work, and then
Yep.
gaining information so that you can make better decisions for the future.
If we don't look at the historical information, there's nothing to work off of. Like
Right.
if and if we just look at what happened in the bank, that tells me absolutely nothing. What your
Yeah.
cash was every day? Cool.
Exactly.
Congratulations. But where did the
Right.
cash go? Where did the cash come from? Like that's
Yes.
it the detail is the important part. And sometimes I think we get buried in trying to make sure that we're just ready for taxes, that we're not going to go to jail, and
Right.
that everything is, set and good for that. But if we want anything more out of our businesses and out of our
Yep.
retirement and out of anything financial related, you got to keep an
Yes.
eye on it and you got to be involved.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's the end rant for today.
Yes.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, please screenshot it and share it to your Instagram stories so that we can be tagged and enjoy it with you. If you don't already follow Amy, we will link her Instagram in the comments or in the show notes, and you should go follow her because she has a really nice Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it, and I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and follow Tatum Accounting on Instagram. You can also do us a huge favor by leaving a review. It's the best way to support us. Let's catch up next week, same time, same place.